Okay, in today's topic we talk about the parallel lines, and our lesson, our learning objective for today is on how to find the angles in a parallel lines. And these are our keywords we need to know. We need to know the corresponding angles, we need to know the alternate angles, we need to know the allied or the interior angles. But before we can go ahead, before we can embark on this, the student need to be able to solve a linear equation, a simple linear equation. A student must be able to solve a simple linear equation, and the student must also need to recall on how to find angle on a point, angles at a point, angles on a straight line, opposite angles, and the angles in a triangle. These are what we did in our previous class about angle facts. We treated this in our previous class. Okay, so let's look at this corresponding angles. When do we say that an angles are corresponding? For me to find these corresponding angles, I always look at the letter. I always look at the letter F. Once I have the letter F, it gives me an idea on how the corresponding angle would be. If I have the letter F, this angle here and this angle here are what we call the corresponding angle. See that? So that means that if you look at this parallel line, at this parallel lines, the angle here we have and the angle here we have are what we call the corresponding angles. In the same way, the angles we have here and the angles we have here, you see this is top, this is top, are what we call the corresponding angles. Lastly, the angles we have here, this is down, and the angle we have here are what we call the corresponding angles. I know that corresponding angles are equal. So if I have here to be A and here is B, maybe here is C and D, A is equal to B, reason they are corresponding angles. C is equal to D, reason they are corresponding angles. Okay, now alternate angle. The alternate angle, I always look at the letter Z. The letter Z. When we look at the letter Z, you find out that this angle that here produce and this angle that here produce are alternate. They are alternate. You see that? So they are what we call the alternate angles. Now let's look at these parallel lines. At these parallel lines, the angle that is here and the angle that is here, which is our Z, are what we call the alternate angles. In the same way, the angles we have here and the angles we have here are what we call the alternate angles. And alternate angles are equal. So if I have here to be A and here is B, here is C and here is D, that means that A is equal to B, and in the same way C is equal to D. They are what we call the alternate angles. Okay, now the last one, the interior angle. I always like using the letter C cover all the interior angle. See that? So whenever you have a parallel line, the angle here and the angle here are both inside. So they are what we call the interior angles. In the same way, interior inside, the angle inside here opposite are what we call the interior angles. And the sum of the interior angles is equal to 180. So if I have here to be A and here is B, that means that A plus B is equal to 180 degree. If I have here also to be C and D, that means that C plus D is equal to 180 degree. Always remember these facts. Okay, now let's look at this question here. On this question here, we asked to find the letter I, H, and G. Now, there are many angles, different angles we can point out at this letter. Anyone you followed, always put the reason. Look at this and this. What angle do we call this? We point out this in our last lesson. We can see that these two angles are the same, and they are what we call the vertical angles. The vertical angles. When I have two straight lines crosses each other, the angle here is equal to the angle here. That is what happened here, the vertical angles. Okay, now look at this also. This angle here and this angle here, what do we call them? They are what? Thank you. They are interior angles. So H plus G is equal to 180. Okay, now look at again. These two angles, this angle here and this angle here, what do we call them? That is fine. They are angle on a straight line. So 130 plus G is equal to 180 angles on a straight line. Now what again? Look at fine and good. Look at this. We have I here, we have 130 here. This is top and this is top. If we talk about F, you see that? What angle do we call here? We call this corresponding angles, and corresponding angles are equal. Okay, now since we have known all this, let's just solve this. We have many ways we can use in solving this, but the easiest way now, I have that I is equal to 130 degree. Reason, they are what we call the corresponding angles. They are what we call the corresponding angles. Okay, fine and good. What again? This and this, you see that? H is equal to 130. H is equal to 130. What do we call that? We call that what? Alternate angles. Alternate angles. Fine and good. Which we find out that I and H are still equal, 130 weighted, and we still call them what? Vertical opposite angle. We did that last time. Vertical angles. Okay, now what about this? What do we have? Okay, I can say this also are on a straight line. Okay, or I can say this plus this is equal to 180 interior angles. Anyone you want to use, you can free to make use of it. Okay, so let me say G and 130 is equal to 180. What reason do I have there? They are what? Angles on a straight line, or angles on a line. See that? So if I solve this, I have G is equal to 180 degree minus 130 degree. So if I minus that, we have that to be what? 50 degree. So this is how we solve the question. Now look at this. When we look at this also, how do we think we can solve this question? Okay, there are many angles here. First of all, I would start from here. This and these are equal. Reason, they are vertical angles. You see that? Okay. Now, P and N are equal. Why? Reason. Because they are what? Tell me. Fine. They are corresponding angles. Okay? What again? M and M. N and M are what? What angle do you have there? Fine and good. They are what? They are equal. Reason. Because they are corresponding angles. So how many corresponding angles do we have here? We have this and this is corresponding, this and this corresponding. That means this and this corresponding. Okay? Now, if you are asked to solve this question, first, we start from the known to the unknown. I cannot go there. I'll start from the known, solve till I get to the unknown. Now, the known, what? I have these two lines. I need to know this, or I need to know this. Which of them I need to know first? If I want to know this first, I'll say this plus this is equal to 180. Reason. Because they are interior angles. This plus this is equal to 180. Reason. Because they are angles on a straight line. So which of them will I go first? Okay, let me go for M first. M plus 75 is equal to 180. Reason. Angles on a straight line. Let me use this. Angle on a straight line. You must write down the reason. So there are angles on a straight line. So at that point we have what? That M gives us 180 minus 75 degree. So M is equal to what? Check. 180 minus 75 gives us what? That's fine. That gives us 105 degree. So M is 105 degree. So since I have that M is 105 degree, this also will be 105 degree. That is our M is equal to what? N. And the reason there is there are what? Corresponding angles. We have done that. Corresponding angles. So since M is 105, N also will be 105. So N also is 105 degree. So what about P? N and P are also corresponding angles. So N is equal to P. Reason they are what we call the corresponding angles. They are what we call a corresponding angle. So since N is 105, P also will be 105 degree. Lastly, what do you have? Q. Look at Q. What do you have Q? Okay, let me simply have that this equal to this. Q is equal to P. What is the reason? They are what? They are vertical angles. They are vertical angles. See that? So Q is 105. So this is how we solve this question. So with the help of this, you are able to know, or identify what we mean by corresponding angles, very important. What we